We are live. This is the NBA Rundown. The channel is Nuke the House. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe to the channel, and away we go. Tyler's running a little late today. I got Dasha as my co-host over here. We'll see how much she has to say. But let's dive right in. And while I wait for Tyler, we'll go ahead and take a look at last night. We had an upset in the association with the Chicago Bulls. Won 124 to 116. This continues a trend that we've seen with Zach LaVine out of the lineup. I think the team has proved now to 5-2 without LaVine in the lineup, and have to wonder how much that's affecting his trade value, right? As the team gets better without him there. So something to keep an eye on here. The Heat, of course, are still not playing at full strength. There was no Bam Adebayo in that game. And, of course, the bright spot for the Heat has been the play of rookie Jaime Jaquez Jr., who had 22 points, 4 rebounds, and 4 assists. Coby White taking up kind of the slack here of the scoring without LaVine. And that's always been one of my criticisms about when we overrate scorers, which is something I think we tend to do. Most of these players can jump in and fill in. Most of these guys do have the auto buckets on their roster. It's just a matter of usage. So we've seen with LaVine out, the chemistry's got better, the defense has got better, and players such as Coby White are stepping in to absorb that loss of scoring and shot creation. So I know they sat him down because they wanted to trade him, but are they unintentionally tanking his trade value by being so much better without him? Another game we had was the Boston Celtics, who defeated the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Celtics improved to 18-5 on the year. It's a quiet 18-5 in my mind. I mean, maybe because the in-season tournament results and things of that nature here, but 18-5. This Celtics team is really good. Now, of course, they'll be on the docket tonight, and we'll be breaking that game down against the Magic here in just a little bit. But it was their second straight win against the Cavaliers, and they were landing right around the number. If I believe when we did the show yesterday, it was like 9 and 224. At 116-107, it landed on 9, and the total was 223. So it shows how close that some of these games can be, and reminds you that our edge is the better is not, we lose the -110, but we get to choose what games we bet. So we need to take advantage of that. And don't be surprised when these numbers are pretty close. Another game we had in the association last night, and this was the first of the bets that we gave out yesterday. The Minnesota Timberwolves defeated the Dallas Mavericks 119-101. And this is where it's tough to take away things from the NBA regular season. And as a fan, part of the reason why I don't like the way the NBA schedule is set up, I think I need to stop complaining though, because as a bettor, those type of situations are excellent. We talked about one team that was 18-5 earlier in the Boston Celtics. The Minnesota Timberwolves have improved to 18-5, and they defeated the Dallas Mavericks, who fell to only 15-9. Pretty good record considering this team missed the play-in tournament last year. But Tyler kept hammering it home yesterday that this was the third game in 4 nights for a depleted roster. So unfortunately for the Timberwolves, I mean, they got the win, great, but we can't take as much from it as I had hoped. But the Timberwolves continue to win on the back of an old school style roster. They probably have one of the biggest lineups in the league when they feature Naz Reid, Karl Anthony Towns, and Rudy Gobert. And Naz Reid led the way last night for the team, 27.6 rebounds, 3 assists. So that's excellent for him. Luka's continued to be fantastic statistically. 39 points, 6 rebounds, 13 assists. But unfortunately, with all the injuries that the team had suffered, the Mavericks were not able to compete at home. Kind of a schedule loss, though, not necessarily ready to downgrade them. The Denver Nuggets, and that was another one we had, and Tyler talked me into it, and we faded the schedule. The Brooklyn Nets had that huge win over the Phoenix Suns on Wednesday night. And when Tyler and I were arguing back and forth, it was the KD revenge game. I said, yeah, but it's also the Miles Bridges, Cam Johnson revenge game. So they were emotional for that game. Not only did they cover the 4.5-point spread against the Phoenix Suns, and when I say they, pronouns pal, the Brooklyn Nets covered against the Phoenix Suns. They won outright. Then they have to travel to Denver. And we talk about how that's one of the toughest travel spots. A back-to-back, you go to the altitude, one of the best teams in the league. And so Jokic, 26, 15, and 10. Tyler called the triple-double on the show yesterday. So give him his props. And boy, wouldn't that have been rough if he would have only had 9 assists, because I feel like he called that matchup perfectly. Let's look in the chat real quick. What's up, Roke Air? Good luck to you tonight, sir. We will find the winner. I see my guy Clyde, and he's giving Dasha some props. Yeah, she's going to jump in here with some winners too. I see my guy Don. I can't really wait to hear how y'all feel about the Raptors game. I like the under 242, but I want to know what y'all think. All right. Yeah, and we'll get to that one in a bit. I'm kind of just going over what I saw last night. I wish we could be going over what we saw in the NFL last night, baby, but that'll be up next. But yeah, so 2 schedule losses that we took advantage of. So now it's time of the recap where we move into regret. Why did I fade the Beam team at home? They had that's where I feel like 2 Sports screwed me up yesterday. I think if I would have really looked into this, there's no way. Maybe I wanted to bet the Kings, but there's no way I should have played the Thunder in that spot. With the way that the Kings have beat the Thunder, and my idea there was, hey, well, now that Chet's in there, the Kings ran up the streak without Chet in the lineup. Chet's going to make the difference, but he didn't. And great night for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 43.6 rebounds, 9 assists. But De'Aaron Fox had a pretty good night as well, 41 points, 3 rebounds, and 7 assists. And the Kings, 128-123 is the final score. That was a pretty solid 5-point win. And I didn't watch the whole thing. I had to watch the Raiders game, guys. I mean, even though okay. But it just felt like they were in control the whole time. They won the second quarter by 7, and it feels like they just never relinquished the lead. Good for Sacramento. They're going to continue to protect that home court. And I know they were so good on the road last year, but I really feel that we made the mistake of fading a good team on the road and not getting enough points. In hindsight, it was plus 1.5. It probably should have been plus 3. I don't know. My projections had the game as even, though. I had it at 118-118. The game goes over as well. And I've talked about it before. The model is not projecting totals properly. Because I had that game at 236 and it comes in at 251. And just looking at the way those 2 teams play, really surprised and disappointed that I'm not able to accurately project some of these overs. Another game that we missed was the Jazz and the Trailblazers. It's another one I'm kind of disappointed in myself that I changed my mind on, because going into it, I really liked the Jazz. And I talked about it with Lauri Markkanen back in the lineup, that they were going to get easier looks on offense. So while the Jazz are not an offensively talented team, once you get those baskets in transition, you get ahead, you get the stops, the ball's going through the hoop. And Colin Sexton, 27 points, 2 rebounds, 4 assists. He's always been a scorer. And so he's the type of player that you like to have on the bench that you can move into the starting lineup when you're missing a couple scorers like Lauri Markkanen and Keontae George. So another one, I'll take the hit on that. My initial feeling was to take the Jazz, and I messed it up. The final thing I'd like to chide myself on is not just trusting myself on this Clippers game. We knew the Warriors were a fade. And the Clippers, the projections are going to be wrong on them because they started so slowly and so poorly, and they had problems integrating Harden at first. But if you sort by the last 5, this Clippers team is playing fantastic. And we were worried about Paul George being out. I don't think we should have been against that team. I mean, we didn't lose money on that game, but I'm really disappointed we left that out. In the end, it was only an 8-point win on a -5. So I guess it wasn't a huge edge. It technically could have gone other way. But this is just two teams in completely different spots right now. The Warriors probably should blow up the score. I don't think they will, and it's really too bad for me, who's a big Steph Curry fan, because like look how ruthless LeBron is, right? On just getting rid of his friends and teammates and people who have helped him in the past. Um, and I guess that's not really an admirable personal quality. I don't know if I like that in a person, but you got to like that if you're trying to win basketball games. And unfortunately, um, I mean, Steph's already got 4 rings. He's a Hall of Famer. Maybe he just, happiness, be with his guys for the rest of his career. But Clay and Dre are two of the most overpaid players in the league, and it's having problems putting the proper supporting cast around. I have to admit, I was kind of wrong about Chris Paul coming in there. This isn't the type of team he needs. It's an older, slower team. Chris Paul worked really well with a bunch of young, athletic players who he could guide, direct, help build. He's a great teacher, but what's he going to teach Klay Thompson at this point? Klay Thompson's basketball IQ is not the issue. Yes, he takes too many contested twos, but overall, right? I mean, this is not the type of player that's really going to benefit from the guidance of a vet like Chris Paul. And that's what Chris Paul is bringing to the table right now, is really more leadership and teamwork than actual basketball skills. So I think we're going to be continuing to fade the Warriors for a while. And I know Clay had a great game, 30 points, but he's really at this phase. And I remember Dwayne Wade being at the end too, where once every 3 games, you get that vintage game. The problem is you're not getting it night in and night out. So while it can be tough to bet against, he's really on a downswing. And it's going to be interesting because I know the Warriors offered him a big extension and he said no. It was like 2 years, 48 million or something. I just don't see where he's going to get more. And if he thinks the Warriors should commit more money to him, then he's just ruining their chances at being successful. I'd say Steph's got 3 years left, really being a top player, and I'd like to see the Warriors take advantage of it. Clyde doesn't like CP3. He does like the over in the Knicks Suns game, and we'll get right to that. Yeah, Tyler's running late, so it might just be me today. Guys, go ahead and throw in your comments in the chat as well, because we'll be relying on you to keep this show going, because you guys don't have Tyler to keep me in line. I don't like this card tonight. I don't like the card. And it's because there's 3 teams in the NBA right now that are just no fun. And when we talk about tanking, look at the debilitating effects it puts on your franchise. Because the Spurs, right, have Victor Wembanyama, and he's been fantastic. And this team still doesn't even stand a chance. They don't even stand a chance. And I don't know if they're still tanking because they're not playing Trey Jones as much as you think they would if they want to win. When Victor and Trey Jones are on the floor together, they have and Devin Vassell, they actually have a positive offensive rating, a positive net rating, and they can get things done. But Trey Jones isn't getting any minutes, and they're continuing to go with this Point Sohan role, which was a cool little experiment. But I don't think it's going to work. So I don't know. Tanking this early is no fun. The Los Angeles Lakers won that game. If I'm going off the top of my head, but I believe it was 122 to 119. And the reason that was significant is when we did the NBA rundown, and this game was Tuesday or Wednesday, the line moved from 2.5 to 3.5 during the show. So that line move was the difference between you either cashing on the Lakers or cashing on the Spurs or losing, vice versa, right? So the books had it right last time. Now, why is this line 7.5? Well, because LeBron sat that last game. Also, it was a pretty lucky cover by the Spurs. I think the Lakers had like an 18-point lead at one point during that fourth quarter. So it was kind of like a late Spurs backdoor cover. Wembanyama played great. He had great numbers against AD. He had a couple really cool dunks. And it should have been a fun matchup because he has nobody around him. And like I said, it seems to me that they're intent on tanking. It's just not a very fun team to watch. The question is here, however, will the Lakers put their foot on the gas and cover 7.5? So I don't know. I really don't like the. Well, first of all, I'm emotional about the Lakers, so it's tough for me to get in here. Let's look at my projections, though. I have it 120.75 to 114.15. So I have it as a 6-point Lakers win. That seems about right, but not enough of an edge for me to want to take a team like the Spurs, who, like I said before, seem to be intentionally tanking. And it gives me, 1 point to the over? That's not enough of an edge either. If I were to play it, however, I guess I would take the Spurs in the over, but I'm fine staying away. Do you guys have anything? Don says the Spurs don't have a true point guard. So, I think Trey Jones could play that role. He just simply hasn't been out there enough. So, I'm not getting involved in the Lakers game. Of course, Tyler and I will talk about these when we do talk. And if he's got a strong feeling, I'm not opposed to it. And that's been happening with us sometimes. And I feel like it's helped me a lot this week. I can think of 2 games that I was scared to play. The Houston Rockets versus Memphis Grizzlies, and then the Nuggets versus the Nets, because I'm not, for whatever reason, I don't like laying a lot of points. But we talk, and so individually I don't like doing it, but we talked during the off season, going over some of our results, and I identified that as one of my weaknesses, that we had a lot of edges on the model where it told us to lay a significant amount of points, and just from experience, just not like when you really get into professional betting, especially if you did around the time that I did, when there was no information out there, right? Okay, let me take it back a little bit. Do you guys remember those 1-800 numbers that used to play on sports radio? Like, that was the sports betting, right? The guy, I've got the winner for tonight. Just call 1-800, right? It wasn't an educated betting public like it is now. So back then, I believe that taking the dogs had a lot more value than it does now, because with the educated betting public, people, and I've heard multiple podcasts, right? They call you square if you lay points. People are hesitant to do it, and I've fallen into that trap myself. So if Tyler gets on here and he wants to lay some of these bigger spreads, I'll tell you what, I'm not going to be against it. Another team that I'm not excited about at all is the Washington Wizards. They don't defend, and they don't care. You got 2 guys leading your team that don't really care about winning. Kyle Kuzma cares about fashion, partying, girls, nightlife. And hey, he's earned over $100 million. That's his right. Same with Jordan Poole. Since he's got that contract, it's just been, it's all about me. He's got a big ego. And you know what sucks is Kuzma is a good defender. Like, Poole will probably never be a good defender. Maybe he could have been if he really had to earn his minutes. But Kuzma went from being really good to not caring at all. The Wizards lack bigs in the middle. Let me jump on here and grab some of these injury reports. I'm sorry I left that out of the Lakers game, but I don't really care. I guess I should say that Anthony Davis is questionable. And nobody's on the Spurs injury list. But let's go to this game here. And Jordan Poole's a game-time decision. If he's out, I think you can make an argument for the under. Did I mention this is the highest total in NBA history here? Excuse me for burying the league. 260.5 is currently the total. And I think it was as high as 261, 262 when I was doing some things earlier. Who is this? Johnny Davis. Johnny Davis is out. He's not even a good player. What a terrible draft pick. Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright both out. On the Pacers side, Andrew Nemhart's out and Jalen Smith is still out. The Pacers' most recent game was that emotional loss to the Bucks with all the post-game shenanigans. So you think that this team should be pretty focused coming in here tonight. If I'm looking at a couple trends for this game, where are we here? The total's gone over in Indiana's last 5 trips to Washington. The total's gone over in 10 of Indiana's last 12 road games. And Washington, 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 games at home against Indiana. But I don't think they've played this year. So I would throw those out because that was a team that actually cared about winning. Like I said, the two guys leading the team right now, all they care about is their stats. So that's where I'm at with this one. Let me see what I projected this one at. I have it at 131 to 125, but I've already told you that I'm under projecting these totals. So I got it at what, about 256.75, 6-point Wizards win. That would tell you to take the Wizards in the under, but I'm not going to do it. And that's why when we're using this model, we're using it as a suggestion because since I do it every day, I know the flaws. And that's why sometimes you'll see what looks to be like big edges that I'm not playing. And so first of all, if I had to play either of them, I think I take the points with Washington, but I really don't want to get involved with Washington games. I believed in them earlier in this year, and it feels like they've let me down every single time. I know they've done well against the number, but that's been on the road where they're just catching a ton of points. And you say they're catching a ton of points here. But also think about it, on a total of 260, those points become less and less valuable, right? It's like when we go to the NFL and we talk about a teaser. The +6 is worth a lot more in a game with a total of 37 than it is with a game with a total of 252. So I also think that comes into effect here. So when I'm looking at the Wizards, they're overall, right? 10-11 against the spread. That's not too bad. Well, they're 2-6 at home and 8-5 on the road. When you look at the Pacers, it's about even. They're 12-9 overall, 7-5 at home, 5-4 on the road. It's just in a garbage game, and I think it's kind of like a garbage slate. I mean, if there's a night to go out with your girlfriend and skip the NBA or go find a new girlfriend, hang out with your cute little cat, and not watch the NBA, it's not. I mean, these two games we talked about so far are terrible, and the one coming up next is even worse. And that's the Detroit Pistons, who are +16 in Philadelphia, taking on the 76ers. We just talked about the highest total in NBA history. This is the highest point spread of the season, +16. However, my projections have this as a 123.7, 104.8 win for the 76ers. So my projections say lay the 16. And why not? The Detroit Pistons are terrible. They haven't won since October. It's a record like 21-game losing streak. And who knows when it will end. When I'm looking at this, Jalen Duren's out. And without him, I don't think I can back this Detroit Pistons team. Marcus Morris and Marvin Bagley almost out. Marvin Bagley being out helps the team, in my opinion. Right now, we're looking at Killian Hayes, Cade Cunningham, Astaire Thompson, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Isaiah Stewart starting. So that's crazy because that doesn't seem like it's that bad a lineup, right? I mean, I'm not saying this is a playoff team, but it doesn't seem like that lineup is just absolutely terrible. And I know Bogdanovic has just gotten back, but still, 2-22 on the year. These Pistons should be doing better. And I have to wonder about Monty Williams. I mean, I really thought that he was going to be the difference there. And it seems like he's doing worse than expected, not better than expected, because 2-22, those players aren't that bad. I mean, that's a better roster than the Wizards. I don't know what's going on in Detroit. I have no one on the injury report for Philly. What is going on? Isn't Embiid usually day-to-day, questionable every single night? Wow, they're putting everyone out there tonight. Let's look at some trends for these two teams. The total's gone over in 5 of Detroit's last 6 games in Philadelphia. Detroit's gone over 7 of their last 9 road games. And Philadelphia has gone over in their last 5 games. Philadelphia has won the last 5 games hosting the Detroit Pistons. And why not? Because they've had Embiid the whole time. And you got to go back to 2019 to where Detroit was respectable. So the trends like the over. My projections have this game slightly going under, but I'm with the trends here. If I were to play this game, I would play the over. I'm not laying the 16, but that's the right side, guys. don't get full. Maybe Detroit can cover this plus 16. I mean, they have to lose sometime. What's their money line? My buddy was asking me that yesterday. Plus 770. That's it. I thought it'd be at least 10-1. All right, let's keep it moving, and we're out of the crap. I mean, the Pistons, the Wizards, and the Spurs, just the worst. It's just terrible having to handicap their games. I mean, I would say money. Let's say if you moneyline parlayed the first three. Let's see what it got me. So I hit moneyline parlay of the 76ers, the Pacers, and the Lakers. 100. That's not bad, actually. 100 got me $91 back. Wow. I thought it'd be better. All right. I hate to say, I hate doing those moneyline square parlays, but I think that one actually works pretty well tonight. Let's talk about the New Orleans Pelicans, who are minus 8.5. They're in Charlotte. They're taking on the Hornets. The total is 232.5. And as I talked about the crappy teams, the Hornets are that tier right above the 76ers, the Wizards, and the Spurs, who are god-awful. The Hornets are in the tier of, hey, they can win and be competitive sometimes. So that's what we have here with the Charlotte Hornets. My projections for this game, 118 to 111. So slight edge towards taking the plus 8.5 at home with the Hornets. Slight edge to the under, but I told you that my model's under projecting scores all year. So I would not play that total. New Orleans, 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 visits to Charlotte. They're 6-1 straight up in their last 7 trips to Charlotte. The total's gone under in 5 of the last 6 times that New Orleans has traveled to Charlotte. But the total's gone over in Charlotte's last 6 games at home. Checking out this injury report. Zion Williamson game time decision. And we're still sitting at 8.5, huh? Line says to me that he's going to play. On the other side, PJ Washington is a game time decision. Mark Williams is doubtful. LaMelo Ball, Caleb Martin, and Frank Nicotalina, however you say his name, Frankie Nichols, he's all out as well. So the Hornets are going to start. See, like I said, this is like it's like an okay lineup. It could beat anybody on a good night. Terry Rozier, Brendan Miller, Gordon Hayward, Miles Bridges, and Nick Richards. Of all the games with these big point spreads so far, because we've talked about a plus 7.5, a plus 8.5, a plus 16, and a plus 8.5. This is the dog that I can see myself getting to. This is the dog that I can see myself getting to. So, I don't know if I'll get there, though. Let me talk to Tyler about it because the Hornets have burned us in the past. You guys have any thoughts on that game? That's the only one that I'm actually considering taking the points. It's a situation I like. It's a home dog, Friday night, maybe no Zion. All right, time to talk about the game of the night. The Orlando Magic have done an excellent job this season. They are turning things around. They're the success, heartwarming story of the season. They're 16-7. Tonight, Markelle Fultz will be a game time decision. Wendell Carter's out, and who is this? Kevon Harris. I'm not familiar with his game. Give me that Shaq meme. On the other side, however, Jaylen Brown's a game time decision. Porzingis is doubtful, and Horford and Cornet are out. The 3 biggest players on the Celtics are out. That'll be interesting to see how it works. Right now, that screams over to me. Because without the bigs, there's going to be less rim protection, and these teams are going to play faster. I had this game projected at 219, and I bet you that's what the books put it at too. But you see this injury report, and you got to jack it up. Not to mention, I'm sure it got bet up. Let me see what it opened at. I'll bet you it opened a lot less than that, because it probably got bet up. Because without anyone here, what did this open at? 222.5. So, yeah, it did get bet up by 2 points. It also opened as the Magic plus 6. Now they're down to plus 4. That doesn't surprise me. The Magic have done very well against the Celtics. They're 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 against Boston. Orlando's also 11-2 straight up in their last 13 games. Boston's won their last 5 games at home, and they're 6-1 in their last 7 games. So Orlando has had success against Boston recently, and I don't want to bucket here. My model loves the Celtics, though. It loves the Celtics. However, can I get there with them having no big man on the floor? The fact that Wendell Carter's out should help me. I think this could be a fast-paced game, and maybe this actually plays into Celtics' advantage, as I would say that their small ball lineup might be a little superior there. So right now, the whole world's on the Magic, and I'm leaning towards the Celtics. You know what's keeping me off? Last night. Because last night, everything except for the trends of the Kings always beating the Thunder pointed to the Thunder. But what ended up coming through? The fact that the Kings just played really well against this team. Yeah, I think the value's gone in that line, though. At 6, I think you can make a much better argument for the Magic. At what's this current number? Is it 4 or 4.5? 4.5, I don't like it as much. I like the Magic and the over. No, I'm sorry. I like the Celtics in the over. The Celtics in the over. We'll see if we can get that. This is what I really want Tyler to talk these through here. And we'll do that later, and we'll update the projections on fanspeak.com. The Atlanta Hawks are plus 1.5. They're in Toronto. Taking on the Raptors, total is 242. These two teams played 2 nights ago, and we were on the Toronto Raptors. And once again, the Hawks did what they do. They came out pretty solid, right? They won the first quarter by 8 points. The Raptors clawed back. It was a 2-point Hawks edge at halftime. But then the Raptors won the third quarter by 10 points. They ended up getting away with a 7-point win. Since Jalen Johnson's gone on an injury report, the Hawks haven't covered spread. The only thing keeping me off here is the zigzag deal, right? Because we've seen this before with the zigzag where you want to bet the opposite, right? So this last game goes over and the Raptors win. So zigzag would say take the under and the Hawks. When we look at some of these trends, the total's gone over in Atlanta's 5 of their last 6 games. They've gone over in 4 of their last 5 games on the road. And Toronto's 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 when playing at home against Atlanta. There's no way I'm playing Atlanta here. It's Toronto or pass, and I think that we'll end up on the Raptors. My only concern is the zigzag. My only concern is the zigzag. Hopefully the Hawks had some fun in Toronto. Great international city for clubbing, by the way. You would think, oh, Toronto's boring. Way more fun than Sacramento or Oklahoma City. I'll tell you guys that much. So I like the Raptors minus 1.5 here. So far, this is probably my 2 favorites so far would be Raptors minus 1.5 and over 224.5 in the Magic game. The Houston Rockets head to Memphis to take on the Grizzlies. They just played this one, but this isn't like the Raptors game. The last time they played was in Houston. The Houston Rockets laid 7.5, and I was hesitant. Tyler talked me into it, and it was a fairly easy win as the Rockets won 117-104. They won by 13. Jaren Jackson had a career game in that game, going for 44, 7, and 2. Tari Eason looked great off the bench for Houston, 25 points and 14 rebounds. This one's tough to not try to go back to Houston here. Let's look. One of the issues that the Memphis has had is no bigs. So I see Brandon Clark still out. Luke Kennard's out. John Morant's out. Marcus Smart's out. Bismack Biyombo will be in there, and Jaren Jackson will be in there. So it looks like Santi Aldama has returned. That, I know it doesn't sound like much, but it actually helps this team where they're weak at. On the other side, I get these mixed up. Yeah, Amen Thompson is a game-time decision. Jayshawn Tate will most likely sit. He's doubtful. And Victor Oladipo, you guys remember him? He's on the Rockets, by the way. He's going to be out for this game. I like the Rockets here. Once again, a little scared of the zigzag. And my projections like the Grizzlies, I have this as a 109.3 to 108 Memphis win. Interesting there. That game does trend to the over. The last game landed on 221, and tonight's total is 211. I think I like the over there. I think I like the over more than taking Houston. But it's Houston or pass. This is such a square night. This is such a square night. I think the only dogs you really can make great arguments for are the Magic and the Celtics. All right. The final game that we have here is the New York Knicks in Phoenix taking on the Suns. Man, I talked about fading the Jazz and it didn't end up on the card because it was 5.5 at the time. I should have just pulled the trigger, fading the Knicks when they play the Jazz. The Knicks are missing Mitchell Robinson. It's a huge deal for a team that really relies on him for rim protection and defensive rebounding. With him out, I think this team loses a lot. And of course, we've heard about some of the, what's the word? Uncertainty is the one that's coming to my head, but it's like turmoil. Doesn't feel like they're getting along well as a team there out in New York, and they look to be on the trade deadline. Go ahead, trade for Donovan Mitchell. He's not going to help. I mean, Melo all over again. But I think that's what they're going to try and do. Let's see who else is out for this one. So Mitchell Robinson's the only one on the Knicks side. I see Eric Gordon as a game time decision. Damian Lee and Josh Okogie out. So we should get the fully powered, the big three there for the Suns. And they're also coming off a loss. They're going against a tired New York team that's going to have Jericho Sims at center instead of Mitchell Robinson. Where did Hartenstein end up? Is he still on the team? Because they could have used him tonight. Oh, he's still out there. I'm surprised that they're starting Sims over Hartenstein. He might do a good job sneaking in there. Let me see what I have this one projection at. But remember, these projections, they don't really incorporate. I mean, all three of these guys playing. They don't incorporate all three of these guys playing because it's only been one game so far. And it was that tough loss to the Nets. It's going to take a little while for them to get together here. Another important thing is Grayson Allen's back for tonight. And I believe that he missed the game against Brooklyn. And you say, oh, Grayson Allen. But on a Phoenix team that's lacking depth, he's the type of player that they need because even though he's not like a lockdown defender, he at least tries. And you can go off on him, but you're going to have to work for it, which I think helps a lot. Him back in the lineup is good. I'd like Gordon in there. What do I have this projected at? 115 to 111. 115.65 to 111. So I'm coming right on the spread here. But I like the Phoenix Suns. I'm fading the Knicks on this road trip. Let me pull up how much they've been traveling because this has been kind of a rough one. I know their last game was in Utah, and they've been out here on the West Coast for a while. So let's check out New York. Let's see where they've all been. The New York Knicks have – so this is really weird. Come on, I'm clicking on this thing. Give me more games. So they were in Utah. Before that, they were at home for Toronto. But before that, they had a 3-game road trip, right? So it's just a lot of travel, right? So they were in Toronto on the first. Then they traveled to Milwaukee. Then they traveled to Boston. Then they hosted Toronto, and that was they beat Toronto both times, but they lost to Boston, Milwaukee, and Utah. I'm fading the Knicks here. This is just a lot of travel for a team. Even though they haven't played a lot of games, that's a lot of travel. Now look at Phoenix. They've been at home since the 5th. So this should be a well-rested team that's got something to prove. They've got their players back in. I like the Phoenix Suns here tonight at minus 4.5. I can't trust the projections. Let's look at some trends here when it comes to totals. The total's gone over in New York's last 5 road games, and with no rim protection, that would make sense. Phoenix is 5-0 straight up in their last 5 games at home against New York, and they're 10-1 straight up in their last 11 games against New York. I like the Suns in the over here. Guys, I hate to say it, but I'm feeling like a square tonight. I'm feeling like a square. I don't like a lot of unders, and there's only 2 dogs I would consider here. So that's one of these things going on in the NBA. Did my parlay go? Oh, my gosh. What do you think about Pels money line, Pacers money line, Suns money line? I would run Lakers instead of Pels. I think Charlotte's more live than the Spurs are. But I like the other two that you mentioned, especially that Suns line because it's only minus 181. So no Tyler here. I'll take a quick 20-minute break. We're going to come back at 1 p.m. or 1 p.m. my time, 4 p.m. Eastern, and we're going to talk about the NFL. And I'm going to have plenty to talk about. I got to give out a best bet though, huh? Well, it's Phoenix. I like the Phoenix Suns. I'm going to let you guys know right now. Here's what I'm going to be campaigning for, though, when Tyler and I do these tags. God, how did this bet not go through? Unbelievable. It's been processing the whole freaking time. Did it get in? It didn't get in. Anyways, I like the Phoenix Suns. I'm going to be also looking at, I got to just redo this whole thing. I also like the over in the Rockets game. I'm considering the Raptors minus 1.5, the Celtics minus 4.5, the total of 224. And I don't like any of the 4 p.m. or 7 p.m. games. There you have it, guys. Like to see my guy RBL in the chat, part of that RBL posse. Go Raiders. Guys, I'll be back in 19 minutes talking the NFL. Thank you for joining us. Nuke the house.